Chapter 519. Immorse knew that the demon-suppressing orb was powerful. But he didn't expect it to be so powerful. One had to know that this demon-suppressing orb was something he obtained from signing in at the Blood Race's lair back on Earth. What level was Immorse at that time? Hunter? Or a Grand Hunter? He had already forgotten. But at that time he had already signed in something that could destroy the super-evolved General Corpse. Could be seen how terrifying the power of the demon-suppressing orb was. Killed 10335 super-evolved General Corpse. Obtained 1033. 5 billion kill points. Total kill points, 1123. 8 billion. You can advance. Do you want to advance immediately? In his mind the system's voice sounded. When Immorse heard this voice, it was as if he was listening to heavenly music. He could finally advance again. Ever since he became a Grand Desolate Master, which was an evolved dragon, his advancement had been very difficult. Firstly, there weren't that many dragons for him to kill, and secondly, there weren't that many super-evolved general corpses for him to kill. He didn't expect that there would be as many as tens of thousands of super-evolved general corpses in this city. He immediately replied in his mind, "Advance." The system's voice sounded frowny face. "This advancement will take 5 minutes. Hearing this, Immorse's figure flashed and returned to the miniature space. In the miniature space he could fast-forward time. With a thought, 5 minutes passed in an instant. The system's notification sounded in his mind again. Frowny face. Advancement successful. Name, Immorse. Level 3 Evolved Dragon. Level 3 Grand Desolate Master. Level 10 Long Xianxia. Skills. Click to expand. At this moment, Immorse had advanced to a level 3 Grand Desolate Master. His strength had increased by more than 10 times. Previously, when he used the dragon-slaying saber, he could only slash out 5 times in a row. But now, it was not a problem for him to slash out 50 times with the dragon-slaying saber. In this case, he didn't have to hide in the miniature world after slashing 2 or 3 times. However, now that all the general corpses in the city had been destroyed, the tens of thousands of general corpses hidden under the city had also been destroyed. Where could he find the tens of thousands of general corpses? Why don't we go underground again to investigate? As soon as this thought appeared, Immorse couldn't help but feel curious. What exactly was it like underground? These general corpses were all 300 meters tall. More than 10,300 meters tall general corpses came from underground. Presumably the underground must be very big. Perhaps it was because of the devil dragon genes in his body. These thoughts kept surfacing in his mind, urging him to find out what was going on. Immorse pondered for a moment and finally made up his mind. Let's go and take a look. Thus he once again came to the outside world. With a thought, Zhou Xian formed 100 clones. The 100 doppelgangers jumped into the 100 huge pits in the city. These doppelgangers were connected to his consciousness. No matter which doppelganger encountered a situation, he would know instantly. These clones continued to head underground. In the first 5 kilometers he could clearly feel everything that his clones felt. However, after 5 kilometers his perception became a little blurry. After 10 kilometers he could no longer sense the existence of these clones. Immorse shook his head. It seemed that using a clone to investigate was not as practical as doing it himself. He no longer hesitated. With a leap he jumped into a deep hole. The first 10 kilometers had already been scouted by his doppelganger, so he walked very quickly. Not long after he arrived at 10 kilometers underground. At this point it was pitch black all around. Of course, with Immorse's strength he could already see things in the dark. Coupled with the probing of his dragon will, no matter how dark the environment was, it did not affect him at all. He continued to probe deeper into the cave with his dragon will. In his probing he could still go down for another 10 kilometers. What a deep hole. Immorse cursed in his mind as he continued to walk down. The cave was at a 45-degree angle and extended all the way down. After walking for another 20 kilometers, a faint red light began to appear in front of him. At first, Immorse thought that it should be the light from underground magma. After all, the vertical distance from here to the ground was more than 20 kilometers long. Based on the thickness of the flaming land stratum, there should be magma occasionally coming out. However, he soon realized that he was wrong. There was no magma here. At the end of the cave ahead was a cave entrance. His dragon will could not detect what was outside the cave entrance. It seemed that the cave entrance had some kind of barrier that prevented his dragon wolf from probing outside. He continued to walk forward. Soon he arrived at the cave entrance. At this moment, looking at the situation outside the cave entrance, he was a little stunned. The cave entrance was above a cliff. Looking out from the cave entrance, he could see a large grassland and a winding river outside. The sun shone on the river, making it look like a shining jade belt. Further away there was a large forest. Further away, there was an undulating snowy mountain. Immorse was a little confused. Hadn't they been going down before? Why did they come out again? At this moment he could see that there were countless huge footprints on the grassland. They should have been stepped out by the tens of thousands of super-evolved general corpses. Immorse used his dragon wool to probe outside. He probed 500 kilometers. He found that there were 3 groups of super-evolved general corpses within 500 kilometers. There were about 100 of them in each group. Immorse was overjoyed. No matter where this place was, killing points was the most important thing. Therefore, with a thought, he disappeared instantly. At the same time, 300 kilometers away, more than 100 super-evolved general corpses were gathered together. Half of these super-evolved general corpses were more than 300 meters tall. The other half were only 100 to 200 meters tall. And from their faces, these super-evolved general corpses should be the children of the super-evolved general corpses. The adult super-evolved general corpses were tearing apart the corpse of a giant beast. This giant beast was 500 to 600 meters long, and the surface of its body was covered with a thick layer of hard armor. But it was forcefully pulled by the super-evolved general corpses. Hiss! The hard armor was forcefully torn off. The scene was a tragic sight. The children of the zombie corpses next to them roared excitedly. Gagagagaga. A super-evolved general corpse tore off a piece of meat that was 10 cubic meters in size and handed it to a zombie child next to it. The corpse child grabbed the meat and began to chew on it like a wild beast. The other zombie children were about to cry from their greed as they kept swallowing their saliva. Loud gurgling sounds came from their throats. But none of the children dared to snatch the meat from the hands of the previous child. In just a moment, this giant beast was torn into hundreds of pieces and divided into the hands of all the general corpses. All the general corpses were like wild beasts as they began to tear the meat in their hands. It was also at this moment that a figure quietly appeared in the sky. In his right hand he held a 2-meter-long, lusterless, ordinary pig slaughtering knife. Chapter 520. While the general corpses were eating the giant beast's corpse, a figure quietly appeared in the sky. He was dressed in black and looked ordinary. In his right hand was a 2-meter-long saber. The saber did not have any luster and its style was ordinary. It looked like a butcher's knife on earth. Those super-evolved general corpses were tearing at the meat in their hands. The smell of blood covered the smell of Immorse's arrival. As a result, these super-evolved general corpses did not notice Immorse's appearance at all. Immorse raised the dragon-slaying saber in his right hand. Immorse first plundered the memories of a few super-evolved general corpses. Among them, the memories of one of the super-evolved general corpses were much clearer than the other super-evolved general corpses. From the memories of this super-evolved general corpse, Immorse discovered a shocking fact. This place was actually a general corpse world. All the general corpses in this world were super-evolved general corpses. In this world there were hundreds of millions of super-evolved general corpses. On the surface the flaming land looked like a planet. In fact, deep underground it was connected to the general corpse world. Previously, the general corpses had discovered this and released their general corpse virus on the flaming land. In their plan, the flaming land would soon be filled with general corpses. After all the humans on the flaming land had become general corpses, these super-evolved general corpses would be able to order the general corpses on Earth to do many things. For example, building houses, mining, quarrying, and so on. After discovering this fact, Immorse was somewhat speechless. Previously, discovering the 10,000 dragon realm was enough to give him a headache. Now, a general corpse world had appeared. However, in comparison, the general corpse world was much less dangerous than the 10,000 dragon realm. Moreover, the appearance of this general corpse world provided Immorse with an excellent way to obtain kill points. At this moment, Immorse raised the dragon-slaying saber in his right hand. He swung it at the general corpse tribe on the ground. There was no sound, no light, no sound. On the ground, a huge ravine that was more than 500 meters wide and 5 kilometers long instantly appeared. Those super-evolved general corpses instantly disappeared. What replaced them was the blood water that was several meters deep in the huge ravine. At the same time, a system notification appeared in Immerse's mind. Frowny face. 105 super-evolved general corpses killed. 10. 5 billion kill points gained. 1/ was equivalent to 10. 5 billion kill points. According to the system notification, if he wanted to evolve into a Tier 4 dragon, he would need to obtain 10 trillion kill points. However, Immerse had plenty of time. After exterminating the corpse general tribe, Immerse had a thought. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the second corpse general tribe. This corpse general tribe had over 200 super-evolved corpse generals. With a single slash, Immerse annihilated all 200 super-evolved corpses. The third general tribe had over 100 super-evolved general corpses. Immerse still only used one strike. Speaking of which, after reaching the third stage, the power of the dragon Salyer had also increased by a lot. With one slash, he could kill 200 to 300 super-evolved general corpses. Within a radius of 1,000 kilometers, there were many corpse general tribes. Immerse swung his saber 50 times. With every slash, a corpse general tribe would be destroyed. The 50 slashes allowed him to gain more than 500 billion kill points. At this time, the energy in his body was almost depleted. He returned to the miniature world. Previously, when he returned to the miniature world, he would wait for his energy to recover before coming out. But now, Immerse had realized that in this world he actually had many ways to quickly recover his energy. The most typical one was that he could recover his energy with just a thought. Or he could fast-forward time. Originally it was 2 days, but now he could fast-forward it to 1 second. This way he could quickly recover his energy. However, Immerse had always been waiting for time to recover his energy, so he had formed a mindset so he did not think of it before. At this moment, with a thought, the energy in his body instantly reached its peak. Thus he once again came to the corpse general world. The corpse general world was extremely large and was simply divided into north, south, east and west. At this time Immerse was in the eastern continent. And this eastern continent could be simply divided into mountains, plains, forests, deserts, glaciers and oceans. Immerse was currently in the plains. According to what he knew, there were over 10,000 corpse general tribes in the plains. This made Immerse secretly happy. As long as he destroyed these 10,000 corpse general tribes, he should be able to level up again. Previously, he was still surprised by the sudden appearance of the corpse general world. Now he understood that this corpse general world was here to give him kill points. Next, Immerse continued to slaughter these corpse general tribes. Every time he slashed 50 times, he would obtain about 500 billion kill points. When his energy was depleted, he would return to the miniature world to quickly recover. Then he would come out again to slaughter the corpse general tribes. In this way, in just 1 day, Immerse's kill points had reached 5 trillion. On the second day, the 10,000 corpse general tribes in the plains had really been slaughtered by him. At this moment, the system's notification sounded in his mind again. He could level up again. After returning to the miniature world, Immerse leveled up again. His level had already reached the level of a rank 4 evolved dragon, which was also a level 4 Grand Desolate Master. Next, if he wanted to level up again, he would need 100 trillion kill points. Looking at this number, Immerse felt a little worried for the system. The kill point system was already a little broken. If this continued, wouldn't it collapse even more? At this moment, the system's voice sounded frowny face. After reaching the level of a rank 5 evolved dragon, the miniature world will automatically level up by 1. The system's words made Immerse feel a little excited. The miniature world's current size had already reached 10 million square kilometers, which was slightly bigger than Wuxia on Earth. If it continued to level up, how big would it be? This filled him with anticipation. He came to the corpse general world. With a teleport, he arrived in the forest. The forest here was not divided into many areas like the forests on Earth. There were Amazon jungle, Burmese jungle, and so on. The forests of the eastern continent were connected into an extremely huge area. In this huge forest there were many tribes. And because the forest was rich in resources, not only were there many tribes in the forest, but they were also much bigger. Usually a small tribe would have 300 people. A bigger tribe would even have 800 to 1,000 people. Of course, this was a good thing for Immerse. At this moment he was teleporting forward while checking all the movements within a radius of 1,000 kilometers. Soon he found a tribe of 500 people. At this moment the tribe was in the middle of a hunting activity. The 500 people went out together and chased a group of giant beasts to the lakeside in the forest. These giant beasts did not know how to swim, so they were surrounded by the corpse general tribes in a fan shape. Chapter 521. This tribe of 500 people was surrounding dozens of giant beasts that were 300 to 500 meters long by the lakeside. At this moment, Immerse's figure quietly appeared 1,000 meters above these people. After appearing, Immerse used the stealth camouflage skill. He blended his figure into the background of the blue sky. The super-evolved zombies on the ground did not know Immerse had appeared. Immerse raised the ordinary-looking butcher's knife in his right hand. He waved it lightly at the ground. The next moment, a 10-kilometer-long and 300 meters wide gully appeared by the lakeside. All the super-evolved zombies, including the giant beasts, were turned into a bloody pulp. In this huge gully there was a layer of blood that was about half a meter deep. At the same time the gully connected to the lake. The lake water immediately poured into the gully. However, the gully that Immerse had drawn was too big and too deep. Even after all the lake water had poured into the gully was still not filled. After Immerse had leveled up, the power of his knife was terrifying. A system notification appeared in his mind. Killed 522 super-evolved zombies. 53 super-evolved zombies. Obtained 5 billion kill points. Obtaining 5 billion kill points with a single slash was a pleasant surprise to Immerse. Furthermore, killing a super-evolved general zombie beast would grant the same benefits as killing a super-evolved general zombie beast. This made Immerse very happy. After all, there were more zombies than super-evolved zombies in the forest. Among them, there were more super-evolved zombie beasts than super-evolved zombie beast. This was definitely good news for Immerse. Next, he would not only hunt down the super-evolved zombie generals, but also the super-evolved zombie beast. In the beginning, this matter did not attract much attention. After all, it was normal for 1 or 2 tribes living in the forest to be wiped out. It would not attract the super-evolved zombies' attention at all. However, on the second day they noticed that something was not right. This was because in just one day 8 tribes were wiped out. This was definitely not normal. In addition, huge gullies were constantly appearing on the ground. Each gully was several kilometers long and 300 to 500 meters wide. This was definitely not something an ordinary super-evolved zombie beast could do. In the depths of the forest between 2 mountains. The mountain was about 10 kilometers tall and stretched for hundreds of kilometers. The entire mountainside had been hollowed out. Although the super-evolved zombies were not on good terms with each other, if something important happened, all the leaders of the tribes would gather here for a discussion. Among these tribal chiefs, there was one who was slightly older but looked stronger than the other tribal chiefs. He was the leader of all the evolved mutated corpse generals in the forest. All of the general corpses had to call him head corpse. As for the conflicts between the tribes, he would not care about them. After all, this was part of the law of nature. But now, a large number of tribes were being massacred, and a large number of super-evolved zombie generals and super-evolved zombie beasts were being hunted and slaughtered. At this moment he looked at the leader of the 10,000 super-evolved zombies in the cave. He kept roaring in his throat. If a human heard him, they would think that he was a wild beast roaring in a frenzy. But that was actually the language of the general corpses. One of the tribal chiefs said, "Another tribe has been wiped out. We must find out who did this. There's no need to investigate. A youth from our tribe saw that guy from afar." As soon as he said this, the rest of the tribe leaders all looked over at him. "Who did this? Tell us. Tell us, I want to tear that guy into pieces." The tribal chiefs all bared their fangs and spoke aggressively. The tribal chief said, "I saw that guy appear in the sky with my own eyes." With a swing of his blade he slaughtered the entire tribe below. What surprised me the most was that he was a human. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire huge cave suddenly fell silent. The sound of falling leaves could be heard. After a short while a tribal chief questioned, "How is this possible? How can a lowly and insignificant creature like a human possess such great strength? Moreover, the general corpses are unkillable. How did he kill so many super-evolved zombies? The tribal chief shook his head and replied, I don't know the specifics. I'm not too sure about the specifics. In short, what I said is what I saw. As for why he was able to kill the super-evolved zombies that were originally unkillable, I think it has something to do with the blade in his hand. When the other tribal chiefs heard that, they all shook their heads. Nonsense. That's impossible. Over the years, we've captured many humans for experiments. In the end, it proved that no matter how advanced the weapons used by humans are, they can't kill us general corpses. That's right. The super-evolved zombies are unkillable. Even if they are killed, they can only be killed by the other super-evolved zombies or zombie beasts of our world. How could they be killed by the inferior creatures of that inferior world? You're just spouting nonsense. When the tribal chief saw that he couldn't get through, he could only shake his head and stop talking. He knew that if he said those words, he would be mocked and questioned by the other tribal chiefs. That was why he didn't say anything for an entire day. Later he heard that 8 tribes had been wiped out in one day yesterday. Only then did he feel that he had to stand up and say something. In the end, after he said that, he was immediately questioned by the other tribal chiefs. However, he didn't care. After all, he had already guessed that would be the result. That was all the information he could provide to the tribal leaders. It was best if they believed him. If they didn't, they would be slaughtered by that inferior creature. At that moment, the corpse finally spoke. Shut up, all of you. As soon as he said this, the previously noisy and huge cave immediately quieted down. The corpse glanced at the 10,000 super-evolved zombies. Finally he spoke. No matter if what he said is true or not, we have to treat it seriously. I've decided to immediately send out a team of zombies to investigate the forest. At the same time, we need a specialized hunting team. If what he said is true, then our hunting team can target that inferior human and make corresponding arrangements. When he said that, the other tribal chiefs naturally had no objections. Therefore, in the afternoon of that day, a team of about 200 general corpses set off in Immerse's direction. Chapter 522. This morning, Immerse massacred another tribe. He gained more than 40 billion kill points. Compared to before, this was much faster. However, Immerse did a rough calculation. If he massacred 8 tribes in a day and gained 50 billion kill points from each tribe, that would be 400 billion kill points a day. And to advance to rank 5, he would need 100 trillion kill points. In other words, he estimated that he would need more than 200 days to advance to rank 5. Although this was already very fast compared to other Grand Desolate Masters. However, Immerse felt that this was still not fast enough. He had to increase his strength to a sufficient level before the giant dragons arrived at the Flaming Land again. When those proud and arrogant dragons arrived at the Flaming Land, they would exclaim, "Damn, how can there be such a strong existence on the Flaming Land?" It seemed that he had to work a little harder. He had to at least increase his kill points to 500 billion kill points a day. Next, Immerse began to madly rush on his way and kill. In the end, the results were gratifying. He had gained 700 billion kill points. It was far beyond his expectations. This was because not only did he kill those tribes, but he also encountered a large group of super-evolved general snakes. In this group there were more than 2,000 super-evolved general snake. This made Immerse's gains far exceed his expectations. He thought that if he encountered an even larger group of general beasts, it would definitely be great news for him. Just like this, on the 3rd and 4th day Immerse could gain 500 billion kill points a day. At this time his kill points had reached close to 3 trillion. On this day Immerse had just massacred another tribe of general beasts. Suddenly an urgent alarm sounded in his mind. Beep, beep, beep. Virtual sentry towers had been set up at the places he had passed by. These alarms were from the virtual sentry towers. He immediately connected his dragon consciousness to the virtual sentry towers. He saw that within the range of the virtual sentry towers, there were more than 20 super-evolved general corpses that were following his footsteps. When Immerse saw so many super-evolved general corpses, he was not afraid at all. Instead, he was secretly delighted. His initial estimate was that there should be about 100,000 super-evolved general corpses. He had worked hard for 4 days and only managed to get 3 trillion kill points. Once these Super Yi gathered the corpses, they would be able to get 10 trillion in an instant. These guys were just here to give him gifts. Therefore he deliberately slowed down and waited for the super-evolved zombies to catch up. In the afternoon, when the red clouds filled the sky, the super-evolved zombies finally caught up. They were very smart. They chose different directions and formed a huge encirclement. Then he slowly drew attention to this encirclement. This encirclement was not only on the ground but also in the air. In the air there were tens of thousands of flying super-evolved beasts. These flying super-evolved beasts were trained after subduing the zombies. They were obedient to their master's orders. All of the corpse generals saw the human who had just slaughtered a tribe of 600 people. The shock in their hearts could not be any greater. Even though he knew that it was a human who had slaughtered so many super-evolved zombies, he was still shocked. But when she saw him standing in front of her, she was still shocked. It was like a human hearing that an ant had massacred dozens of villages. Although he knew it a long time ago, when the ant stood in front of him, the shock and fear in his heart could not be any greater. These 100,000 corpse generals, together with more than 10,000 corpse generals, surrounded Immerse. And this time they had learned their lesson. They did not waste any more words with Immerse. They did not wait until they could not defeat him before using their ultimate move. Instead, they had long prepared their ultimate move and used it on Immerse right away. Therefore all the super-evolved zombies had dozens of thick Xianxia growing on their feet. Among the 100,000 super-evolved zombies, millions of Xianxia that were as thick as giant pythons surged toward Immerse from all directions. In the air, the corpse general beasts also used their ultimate moves. The bones in their bodies kept cracking. Their bodies began to morph. Immerse shook his head slightly. He did not wait for these guys to finish using their ultimate moves. The pig slaughtering knife in his right hand disappeared. In its place was a fist-sized bead. At first glance, one would feel that this pearl was sparkling and translucent. There were no impurities at all. But if one felt it carefully, they would feel that it contained an extremely terrifying energy. This energy seemed to have the power to destroy heaven and earth. The next moment he flipped his right hand. Then the bead fell down to the ground. In the process of the bead falling, time seemed to have stopped and the scene seemed to have frozen. Those ferocious corpse general beasts that were about to pounce on Immerse in the air were now quietly frozen in the air, not moving at all. Those python-like Xianxia that were about to pounce on Immerse also stopped in an instant. They did not move at all. In the entire scene there was only one bead that was slowly falling. A moment later this demon-suppressing bead landed. At this moment there was a dazzling brilliance. The entire world was swallowed by this dazzling light. But strangely there was no sound in such a dazzling light. It was as if a mute button had been pressed. After a full 5 minutes this dazzling light slowly disappeared. Heaven and earth, trees and everything around slowly appeared again. At this moment, all the super-evolved corpse general beasts in the sky had disappeared. The sky was extremely clear. In the blue sky an old bird flew past. A beautiful world. On the ground, the millions of python-like Xianxia that were about to surge towards Immerse had completely disappeared. The 100,000 super-evolved corpse general beast had also completely disappeared. It was as if they had never existed. At the same time, a system notification appeared in Immerse's mind. Frowny face killed 111,203 super-evolved corpse general beasts. Obtained 110,1203 million kill points. Immerse looked at this and nodded in satisfaction. With just one attack he had obtained so many kill points. If he did it a few more times, wouldn't he be able to level up in minutes? However, this was only an ideal situation. This time he had destroyed so many corpse general beasts. Next, these corpse general beasts would either send stronger existences to cause trouble for him, or they would hide and not meet him. But they would definitely not send such a large number of super-evolved corpse general beasts to surround and kill him. Because they were not stupid. They knew that sending so many super-evolved corpse general beasts was just sending them to their deaths. If he continued to hunt super-evolved corpse general beasts here, the speed would not be as fast. But now he had already obtained 1/10 of the kill points. Was the remaining 9/10 still far away? Chapter 523. Over the next few days things developed as Immerse expected. Those super-evolved corpse generals no longer came to cause trouble for him. Instead they all went into hiding. At least on the surface, Immerse could no longer detect any super-evolved corpse generals. Since he couldn't find any super-evolved corpse generals, he could only go kill those corpse generals. At the same time, in a huge cave at the foot of the mountain, the corpse head was sitting on a high stone platform. Below him there were more than 50 tribal leaders. Compared to the tens of thousands of tribal leaders a few days ago, the current situation could only be described as bleak. The tribal leaders had gloomy expressions. The corpse generals below didn't dare to say anything. After a long while, the corpse head spoke. "Do any of you have any ideas?" The 50 tribal leaders remained silent. The corpse head snorted. "Normally you all act like a tyrant in your own tribes, but now that there's an enemy invading, you're all out of ideas. What kind of fucking tribal leader are you?" The tribal leaders all secretly complained in their hearts. "Normally you act like a tyrant in front of us, but now that there's an enemy invading, you're also out of ideas? Then what's the use of having a corpse like you?" Of course, these were only the tribal leaders' thoughts. They naturally couldn't express it on the surface. The corpse head looked at the tribal leaders. They all looked at each other. This made him even angrier. "If you still can't think of a solution, then don't be a tribal leader." When the corpse generals heard this, their expressions all changed. What did it mean if a corpse general leader was removed from his position midway? It meant that the tribal leaders might very well send them to Thousand Poisons Ridge. That was equivalent to giving them a death sentence. The corpse general leaders all looked at each other. They all saw the fear in each other's eyes. At this moment, a corpse general leader suddenly had an idea and said, "Corpse head, I have an idea." The other tribal leaders all looked over, their eyes filled with hope. The corpse head also looked at the tribal leader. "What? Speak." The tribal leader replied, "We can lure that guy to Thousand Poisons Ridge. Let the corpse general beasts of Thousand Poisons Ridge deal with him." When the tribal leaders heard this, they were all overjoyed. How could they have forgotten about this? In the eyes of the corpse general beasts, Thousand Poisons Ridge was a forbidden area. Since ancient times, the corpse general beasts were not allowed to enter as they pleased. Therefore they couldn't react in time. When they heard the leader's words, they all came to a realization. The corpse's eyes lit up. The 10,000 Poisons Ridge not only had tens of thousands of poison general corpse beasts, but many of them were also in groups. The small ones were a group of 1 or 200, while the large ones were tens of millions. Any super-evolved general corpse, no matter how powerful it was, would basically die if it went to the Thousand Poisons Ridge. Even someone as strong as corpse did not dare to casually go there. The corpse nodded in agreement. "Very well, then we'll lure him to the Myriad Poisons Ridge." Yes. The group of leaders responded one after another. The corpse reminded him again. "Remember, do not reveal our plan to anyone. Just arrange for these corpse generals to arrive at the designated location." The corpse generals nodded their heads once more. In the following days, Immorse continued to slaughter these corpse generals in the forest. However, although there were many corpse general beasts, not many of them had reached super-evolution. Therefore his kill points increased at a slower rate. He was wondering if he should look for super-evolved general corpses in other places. From the memories of a few super-evolved general corpses, he knew that this world actually had cities. East, south, west, and north, each of these cities had over 100 general corpses. A few of these cities had a population of over 100,000. Most of them had a population of over 1 million. If he went to these cities, he would definitely be able to obtain quite a bit of kill points. But at the same time, Immorse also knew that the more populated a city was, the more experts there would be. Furthermore, he already knew that super-evolved general corpses were not the strongest experts in this world. Above level 10 super-evolved general corpses were ancestral corpses. Those were existences that surpassed the Grand Desolate Master Realm. With Immorse's current strength, it would probably be quite difficult for him to deal with ancestral corpses. Moreover, after his sea dragon clone evolved into a level 10 strong mutant wild beast, its level never increased again. Even though Immorse's level was constantly increasing, it was still a level 10 desolate beast. This was probably due to the limitations of the Dragon Pearl shards. It only had 2 Dragon Pearl shards now and was unable to form a complete Dragon Pearl, so it could not evolve any further. It was unknown when it would be lucky enough to obtain a 3rd Dragon Pearl shard. Perhaps when that time came, the Sea Dragon clone's strength would receive a qualitative increase. On this day, Immorse continued to farm monsters in the forest. He inadvertently detected that there were more than 50 super-evolved general corpses more than 100 kilometers away. This surprised Immerse. These super-evolved general corpses had been hiding for the past few days. Why did they suddenly appear? He plundered the memories of a few of the super-evolved general corpses. He discovered that these super-evolved general corpses had all received orders from their tribe leaders to gather here. Immerse found it strange. These tribe leaders only said that they wanted these super-evolved general corpses to gather here, but they did not say what they were here for. It seemed like there was some kind of conspiracy. However, no matter what conspiracy they had, he would kill them first. Thinking of this, Immerse teleported and arrived above these general corpses. The dragon-slaying saber slashed downward. Without a sound, these 50 super-evolved general corpses were slaughtered. More than 5 billion kill points appeared in Immerse's mind. After killing these super-evolved general corpses, Immerse continued to slaughter the surrounding general corpses. More than an hour later, more than 50 super-evolved general corpses appeared. Just like before, Immerse slaughtered them all. More than an hour later, more than 50 super-evolved general corpses appeared. After the fifth wave of general corpses appeared, Immerse could already tell. These general corpses were all pointing to the southeast. It was obvious that they were trying to lure him there. Logically speaking, since they wanted to lure him there, he should naturally go in the opposite direction. However, Immerse did not do that. He followed them and saw what they were up to. Even if there were stronger experts there or if there was some danger waiting for him, Immerse could escape into the miniature world and easily resolve the danger. Therefore, Immerse followed them and there were 50 waves of super-evolved general corpses. More than 50 waves of super-evolved general corpses meant that there were more than 2,500 of them. Immerse was a little surprised. In order to lure him here, these general corpses had really put in a lot of effort. They directly used more than 2,500 super-evolved general corpses as bait. After killing 2 more waves of super-evolved general corpses, Immerse looked at a mountain. The mountain was about 5 kilometers tall. The mountain was densely wooded. Halfway up the mountain, smoke lingered. It looked like a fairyland. Chapter 524. Immerse was led to a mountain by the corpses. The mountain was about 5 kilometers tall. Halfway up the mountain, clouds and mist lingered, making it look like a fairyland. From the clouds and mist, there was a waterfall that fell all the way to the foot of the mountain. If it was on Earth, this place would look like the residence of an immortal. But at this moment, when Immerse probed out, he found that there were tens of thousands of corpse beasts on this mountain. Among these corpse beasts, the weakest ones were level 1 super-evolved corpse beast. They were far from what ordinary corpse beasts in the forest could compare to. Moreover, these corpse beasts did not move alone but in groups. The small groups had hundreds of them. The big ones had thousands or even tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. When Immerse saw this, he finally understood what these corpse beasts were up to. It turned out that they wanted to lure him here and let these corpse beasts deal with him. To be honest, these corpse beasts were indeed very strong. The most terrifying thing was that there were too many of them. Even those corpse general tribes would have to flee in front of these super-evolved corpse general beast. But to Immerse, this was killing points. When he investigated the situation here, he was so excited that his eyes shone brightly. He really should thank these corpse generals. Without them, he probably wouldn't have been able to find such a place. In order to thank these corpse generals, Immerse killed the last wave of super-evolved corpse generals. Then with a teleport he arrived halfway up the mountain. Here there was a group of more than 500 corpse beasts. All of them had pointy mouths and monkey cheeks. They looked like monkeys. However, it was much bigger than a monkey. They were more than 50 meters tall. They were chasing and playing among the giant trees. When they noticed a human figure in the air, they immediately cried out excitedly, "Squeak, squeak, squeak." They called their friends and surrounded Immerse. They gathered below Immerse and screamed excitedly. It could be seen that their eyes were blood red. Their claws were also blood red. They must have seen a lot of blood on a daily basis. Immerse waited for the group of more than 500 corpse beasts to gather at his feet, and continued to jump into the air trying to catch him. In his right hand the dragon Xianxia appeared. Then the dragon-slaying saber in his hand slashed down at the over 500 half-zombie beasts below. Silently, A huge ravine more than 500 meters wide and 2 kilometers long appeared in the forest below. More than 500 corpse beast commanders were reduced to a bloody pulp in the ravine. As for his kill points, it had increased by more than 50 billion. Awesome. This was much better than killing those zombie beasts in the ordinary forest below. After killing these corpse general beasts, another 1,000 or so corpse general beasts surrounded them. These were some flying corpse generals. They looked a little like flamingos. However, the difference between them and the flamingos was that their entire bodies were blood red. Their claws and beaks were sharper than the flamingos. They surrounded Immerse, who was in the air. Immerse already knew that these super-evolved beasts were poisonous. Even the air in this mountain was highly toxic. Even a level 10 super-evolved corpse would not be able to live for more than half an hour after entering this mountain. However, Immerse's body was impervious to poison, so the air here did not affect him at all. This time because these flying corpse beasts were slightly scattered. Immerse used 3 slashes in a row to kill them all. A notification came from his mind. He had obtained more than 100 billion kill points. If this continued, 100 trillion kill points would not be a problem at all. After killing for 2 days, this hillside was already filled with huge ravines. Every huge ravine city was covered in blood-red soil. Immerse looked at the kill points in his mind. 983,988 billion. He was less than 2 trillion away from leveling up again. However, at this time the energy in his body had been mostly consumed. Thus he returned to the miniature world. With a thought, the energy in his body quickly filled up. Once again he returned to reality and continued to fight. An instant of charging was enough for him to slash out more than 50 times. As the saying goes, charging for 5 minutes, talking for 2 hours. Next, after destroying 3 more groups of corpse beasts, a notification came from his mind. Frowny face, the kill points have reached the promotion standard. Do you want to promote now? Immerse was overjoyed. With a thought he returned to the miniature world. In his mind he said, promote. This promotion will take 5 minutes. With a thought, Immerse fast-forwarded the time. 5 minutes were completed in an instant. Another notification came from his mind. Frowny face, promotion successful. Name, Immerse. Level 5 Evolved Dragon, Level 5 Great Desolate Master, Level 10 Long Xianxia. Ability. Click to expand. Immerse stretched out his right hand and clenched it into a fist. He stretched it out again and clenched it into a fist again. He felt the surging energy in his body. Immerse was secretly happy. He had finally reached the 5th step. Level 5 Evolved Dragon. He estimated that with his current strength combined with the Dragon Salure he could almost beat up a level 10 Evolved Dragon. In his mind, a system notification came again. Frowny face, Level 5 Evolved Dragon. Miniature world can be upgraded. Do you want to level up now? Immerse nodded. Level up. This upgrade will take 72 hours. During the upgrade it will be locked. The host will no longer be able to control anything in the miniature world, nor will he be able to enter or exit the miniature world. Hearing this notification, Immerse was not dissatisfied at all. Instead he nodded in satisfaction. He had killed so many corpse beasts in a row. Although his body could instantly recover in the miniature world, his mental fatigue could also be recovered. But mentally he couldn't help but feel a little tired. He even felt a little annoyed. Think about it, if you had to do the same thing for more than 10 days, dozens of days or even hundreds of days, would you feel annoyed? Therefore he could use these 72 hours to rest well. Emma was surprised to see that Immerse had not left. It had been a long time. Immerse had basically returned to the miniature world and left in an instant. Sometimes, before she could even react, he had already left again. This time he stopped. She asked, Brother Emma, will you be staying for a while this time? Immerse nodded, yes. Emma was overjoyed and quickly said, Then I'll go prepare some food for you. Immerse nodded again. At the same time, Happy heard the voice and walked out of the room not far away. When she heard that Immerse would be staying for a while this time, her face was full of smiles. Her eyes, which seemed to be able to speak, also curved into 2 crescent moons. Immerse immediately felt that spring had arrived. Flowers were blooming, birds were singing, and flowers were fragrant. Just looking at her smile was a kind of enjoyment. Chapter 525. Immorse stayed in the miniature world for 3 days. During these 3 days, Happy and Emma cooked different dishes for Immorse every day. Previously, when he was in the miniature world, he could eat whatever he wanted with just a thought and a table would appear in front of him. However, Immorse still felt that something was missing from the dishes that had been transformed into this way. Now the food made by the two of them made him feel the same as when he was eating in the past. It was rare for Immorse to enjoy such leisure time. The four of them chatted and laughed while eating. During these 3 days, Immorse watched the moon rise and the sunset with Happy every day. The days passed comfortably. Finally, 3 days later, Immorse was taking a noon nap. A system notification sounded in his mind. Upgrade complete. Immorse opened his eyes. He looked around. There didn't seem to be any changes around him. However, when he closed his eyes and sensed carefully, he found a shocking change. In the past, the miniature world was just a large piece of land. Outside of this land, everything was in chaos. Now, after the miniature world was upgraded, it had become a planet. The size of the planet was about the same as Earth in the past. Immorse was very surprised. The miniature world had become Earth? The area had expanded too much. However, on this planet, other than the large area that Immorse had modified, the rest was barren. Immorse began to modify this planet in his surprise. Immorse's modification was actually very simple. Yangtze River, Great Wall. Yellow Mountain, Yellow River. Pacific Ocean, Antarctica. Mount Everest, Amazon jungle. In short, he copied everything on Earth here. At the same time, he added many magnificent sceneries of the flaming land. For example, the sunrise of East Pole Island and the aurora of North Pole Island. His modification was very fast, almost completed in just a few seconds. The moment the modification was completed, a gust of fresh air rushed to his face. This Earth was not as bad as the Earth where Immorse lived before. It was also not like the Earth after transmigration where there were zombies everywhere. This was a virgin land that had not been developed yet. In the future, this would be my world. Immorse thought to himself. Moreover, this place couldn't be called a miniature space anymore. Immorse thought for a moment. He was too lazy to think of an awesome name, so he decided to call it Earth Space. Everything in this Earth space was under Immorse's control. If he wanted the mountains to collapse, the mountains would collapse. If he wanted the Earth to crack, the Earth would crack. If he was happy, he could make the Yangtze and Yellow rivers flow all over the planet. The Great Wall could encircle the Earth twice. With just a thought, Happy, Emma, and Emma's son flew into the air. The four of them began to travel around the world. Emma and Happy looked at the scenery of Earth that they were once familiar with, and their eyes brimmed with tears of excitement. He took them around the Earth space. After they had seen all the sights on Earth, Immorse let them return to their original positions. After that, Immorse bid farewell to the three of them and left Earth. He returned to the Thousand Poisons Ridge. Using his draconic senses, he quickly found a group of super-evolved zombie beasts. After that, he teleported to the mountain stream where the super-evolved zombie beasts were. With one slash, more than 800 super-evolved zombie beasts were turned into a bloody pulp. In his mind, there were more than 80 billion kill points. Now that he had become a 5th-rank evolved dragon, if he wanted to level up, he would need 1,000 trillion kill points. However, there were many super-evolved zombie beasts in the Thousand Poisons Ridge. It shouldn't be difficult to get 10 million kill points. Over the next few days, Immorse had been slaughtering these zombie beasts in the Thousand Poisons Ridge. His kill points were quickly accumulating. At the same time, in the huge cave, the corpse asked a tribe leader below, "That human should be dead. That human should be dead. Tell me, how did he die? Let me be happy to." The tribe leader hesitated for a moment before replying, "He is not dead yet." The corpse frowned and asked the tribe leader, "What happened? What happened?" The tribe leader replied, "Through our surveillance, we found that the poisonous fog there has no effect on him at all." The corpse asked again, "What about the zombie beasts? There are so many super-evolved zombie beasts there. I don't believe that those super-evolved zombie beasts have no effect on him. Especially those hundreds and thousands of zombie beasts. They can easily tear him apart." The tribe leader replied, "He killed a lot of super-evolved zombie beasts. And it seems that the more he kills, the more excited he gets. He specifically targets large groups of zombie beasts. According to our estimates, he has slaughtered more than 50 zombie beasts in the past few days." The corpse leader's expression changed when he heard that. Is this guy that strong? The other 50 or so tribe leaders didn't dare to make a sound. After a long while, the corpse leader said, "If that's the case, it seems that we have to ask the corpse ancestor to come out." The tribe leaders were all surprised when they heard that. The corpse ancestor's strength was above the super-evolved zombie beasts. Even a level 10 super-evolved zombie beast had to be respectful in front of the corpse ancestor. If the corpse ancestor came out, killing that kid would be a piece of cake. But the problem was that the corpse ancestor hadn't appeared for a long time. Normally, the corpse ancestor wouldn't appear unless it was an extremely important matter. Although the matter this time was rather important, it couldn't even be considered very important, let alone extremely important. Would the corpse ancestor come out? The corpse leader looked at the suspicious gazes of the zombie leaders and shook his head. "I know what you're worried about, but this time we have to ask the corpse ancestor to come out no matter what. If we're late, I'm afraid it'll be too late. I'm afraid our entire zombie beast will be annihilated." The zombie leaders were all shocked when they heard that. A mere human could cause the entire zombie beast to be annihilated? Was this a joke? But looking at the corpse leader's expression, it clearly wasn't a joke. The expressions of all the corpse commanders turned solemn. On this day, Immerse's kill points had reached more than 200 trillion after continuously slaughtering these zombie beasts. With less than 800 trillion he would be able to level up again. But in the past few days, zombie beasts that numbered more than 100,000 had rarely appeared. First of all, Immerse had already annihilated many large zombie beast clans. Secondly, these zombie beasts had a certain level of intelligence. They had long given up on dealing with this human when they saw how difficult it was to deal with him. Instead, they had all gone into hiding, afraid that this human would cause trouble for them. Speaking of which, these zombie beasts were all very bitter in their hearts. In the past, when those humans came to this mountain, they fought to kill them. But this time, this human was simply too valiant. They couldn't wait to hide, so how would they dare to show themselves in front of this human? Chapter 526. Immerse was a little depressed at this moment. When he first arrived, the 1,000 Poisons Ridge's corpse general beasts were still in groups, and it was a scene of prosperity. Why were there suddenly no corpse general beast? If these corpse general beasts knew what Immerse was thinking, they would probably beat him to death. "Wasn't it all your fault? Why are you still pretending to be innocent?" On this day, Immerse finally discovered another group of corpse general beasts. Moreover, there were more than 10 million corpse general beasts in this group. It was a group of corpse general ants. It was the largest group of corpse general beasts in the entire 1,000 Poisons Ridge. Although each corpse general ant was only the size of a house cat, due to their numbers advantage, no corpse general beasts in the entire 1,000 Poisons Ridge dared to fight them. It could be said that this group of corpse general ants was at the top of the food chain in the 1,000 Poisons Ridge. This group of corpse general ants had roamed the 1,000 Poisons Ridge for millions of years. They were indifferent to life and death and would fight if they were dissatisfied. No corpse general beasts dared to provoke them. It could be said that other than themselves, no other creature in this world was their enemy. When Immerse discovered this group of corpse general ants, he was so excited that his body trembled. He originally thought that it would take a few more months for him to level up. He did not expect happiness to come so suddenly. The 5 mountains below were all nests of corpse general ants. Immerse was thinking of a way to lure all the corpse general ants out, and then use a demon-suppressing orb to deal with them. After 2 hours of trying, he failed. At most, only one mountain's corpse general ants would come out each time. At this rate, wouldn't he be wasting 4 more demon-suppressing orbs? Moreover, if he killed all the corpse general ants in one mountain, the rest of the corpse general ants might hide inside and not come out. Immerse thought for a moment and finally slapped his head. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. How could he forget this? However, just as he was about to make a move, he suddenly frowned. This was because he detected a figure rapidly flying towards him from 1,000 kilometers away. What surprised him the most was that this figure didn't use any energy when flying. It did not have wings or any auxiliary flying devices. It just stood in the air and flew toward him at a speed of dozens of kilometers per second. Immerse used the eye of the demon dragon to check his level. Type: General Corpse. Level: Level 1 Corpse Ancestor. What the hell is Corpse Ancestor? Immerse asked. In his mind, The system's voice sounded frowny face. Level 1 corpse ancestor is an existence that surpasses the grand desolate master realm. Immorse understood. So it was a realm even higher than the grand desolate master. It seemed that he had to be careful. Soon the corpse ancestor arrived within 10 kilometers of Immorse. Immorse condensed a pair of devil dragon wings on his back and flew into the air. The two of them faced each other from a distance of 10 kilometers. With their strength, although they were 5 kilometers away, they could even see each other's hair. At their level, 10 kilometers was the maximum distance they could react to. If they were any closer and one of them suddenly attacked, the other wouldn't be able to react in time. Immorse sized up the corpse ancestor. He was not hundreds of meters tall like the other general corpses. He was only the size of a normal human. The skin on his body was wrinkled. If someone with OCD were to see this, they would probably want to flatten him with an iron. On his wrinkled head, there were a few thin strands of long white hair. The white hair fluttered in the wind, giving off an ethereal feeling. His face, hands and feet all looked like a normal human. There were no fangs or claws. Immorse was secretly surprised. Could it be that after evolving into a corpse ancestor he would become more like a human? It seemed that the stronger a creature was, the more human-like it would be. So the human form was the most suitable form in the universe? The corpse ancestor was also carefully sizing up Immorse. After a while he opened his mouth and said, "You're that human?" The words that came out of his mouth were actually in human language. Immorse nodded, "Yes." The corpse ancestor paused, then said with a hoarse voice, "I don't want to fight, but I advise you to leave my world immediately." Immorse chuckled and said, "You general corpses destroyed my world. I had no choice but to come to your world to hunt general corpses. Only then can I barely survive." The corpse ancestor said coldly, "Since that's the case, there's no room for discussion?" Immorse made an inviting gesture, "Bring it on." The corpse ancestor said coldly, "This is your last chance." Immorse smiled, "That's what I wanted to tell you." Seeing Immorse being so stubborn, the corpse ancestor's eyes flickered with red light. Then he slowly clenched his right fist. 3 long spikes slowly grew out from the gaps between the 3 fingers of his right fist, a little like Uncle Wolf's claws. However, they were not steel claws but extremely sharp horny claws. At the same time his left arm rapidly changed and became thicker. A bony defensive layer formed on the surface of his left arm. Overall, his left arm looked like an American shield. Immorse was slightly puzzled when he saw this. At the level of the corpse ancestor, shouldn't the battle be like Star Wars with lasers flying back and forth? Why was he so primitive, using claws and shields? Immorse tried to plunder the corpse ancestor's memories to take a look. But soon the system sent a notification: frowny face, plunder failed. Obviously, the corpse ancestor's realm was much higher than Immorse's. Therefore the chances of failure were higher. Shaking his head, the dragon salure suddenly appeared in Immorse's right hand. When the corpse ancestor saw the dragon's salure in Immorse's hand, he only glanced at the unremarkable blade. However, his body did not move at all. From Immorse's right arm, energy continued to pour into the dragon's salure. The corpse ancestor still did not move at all. After the dragon's salure finished charging, Immorse looked at the corpse ancestor. His gaze instantly became sharp. He swung the blade down with his right hand. There was no energy, no sound. The ground beneath the corpse ancestor was directly split open, creating a huge crack that was 10 kilometers long and 300 meters wide. However, the corpse ancestor had already disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already behind Immorse's back. The sharp claws on his right hand pierced towards Immorse's back. Puff! It instantly pierced through his heart. Immorse was startled. He had yet to regain his senses. Puff! The sharp claws had already been pulled out, and then he waved them again. Chua! His head had already flown high into the air. At this moment there was only one thought in Immorse's mind. So damn fast. Only now did he truly understand the corpse ancestor's fighting style. There were no fancy movements, no huge amount of energy. There was only one word: fast. Furthermore, the corpse ancestor had actually used energy. However, he did not release his energy, but instead gathered it on his claws. This would make the claws 100 times sharper. Coupled with his speed, he would be invincible. This was the fighting style of someone who had reached a certain realm. Chapter 527. Corpse Ancestor chopped off Immerse's head, but his old bark-like face didn't have the slightest bit of expression. His pair of gray eyes also didn't have a trace of emotion. Instead he looked at Immerse's headless corpse that was rapidly falling, motionless. And at this moment, another figure appeared behind Corpse Ancestor without any warning. The moment this figure appeared, a jet-black pig slaughtering knife in his right hand chopped down at Corpse Ancestor's head. That's right, this person was Immerse. Facing a guy who he had never seen before who was at a higher realm than him, how could Immerse not be prepared at all? The one who had his head chopped off earlier was naturally his clone. At this moment, Immerse suddenly chopped down with his knife. Corpse Ancestor's reaction was also extremely fast. Although Immerse was behind him, it was as if he had eyes on his back. His body slanted slightly, dodging Immerse's knife. At the same time, the sharp claws on his right hand directly slashed towards Immerse's abdomen. Immerse hurriedly dodged backwards. With his experience, his dragon-slaughtering knife could only display its greatest power from a distance. If it was in close range, it would be very difficult to display its power. But Corpse Ancestor's battle experience was extremely rich. He didn't give Immerse a chance to escape at all. He directly chased after Immerse. At the same time, his right claws continuously stabbed towards Immerse's chest, eyes and neck. In the past battles, Immerse had mostly relied on his powerful strength or powerful weapons to crush his opponents within 1 or 2 moves. It was very rare for him to fight in close range with an opponent who was slightly stronger than him. For a moment it was somewhat difficult for him to adapt. He only had the power to parry and didn't have the ability to counterattack. With a single teleport he appeared several hundred meters away. But in the next moment, Corpse Ancestor also teleported over. And the moment he arrived, he was behind Immerse and his sharp claws pierced towards the back of Immerse's head. Immerse suddenly somersaulted forward, dodging this claw. At the same time, his right leg suddenly kicked towards Corpse Ancestor's face as he somersaulted in the air. The shield on Ancestor Corpse's left arm blocked Immerse's kick, and the sharp claws on his right arm struck towards Immerse once again. As Immerse retreated, black dragon scales appeared on his body. This guy's attacks were too fast and fierce. He wasn't very good at close combat, so he really couldn't take it. Ding 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 ding. Just as Immerse's dragon scales covered his entire body, that fellow's sharp claws had already slashed 5 times across Immerse's body. It created a series of sparks. A wisp of surprise flashed on Corpse Ancestor's withered face that seemed to be eternally expressionless like an old tree. However, his hands did not stop moving at all. Since he couldn't do any damage to Immerse's body, the shield on his left arm came in handy. He continued to hit Immerse's body viciously. Bang! It smashed onto Immerse's shoulder. Bang! It landed on Immerse's chest. Bang! It landed on Immerse's head. It landed on Immerse to the point that he felt a bit dizzy. This fellow's shield didn't look heavy, but when it landed on him, it was extremely powerful. It smashed Immerse to the point that he kept falling towards the ground. However, when Immerse was only 500 meters away from the ground, his shield smashed onto Immerse's chest. Bang! This was the most powerful attack. Immerse was smashed into the left side of the mountain. Boom! His entire body sank into the cliff. But before he could react, a voice suddenly rang out. Corpse Ancestor's shield instantly appeared in front of him and smashed towards his chest. Immerse gathered all the energy in his body to his chest, instantly forming an energy shield. He wanted to block this attack. However, just as the shield was about to hit the energy shield, Corpse Ancestor's sharp claws suddenly pierced out, aiming straight for Immerse's eyes. Although Immerse's head was covered in scales, his eyes weren't. At this moment, Immerse instantly understood Corpse Ancestor's plan. This fellow was simply too shrewd. Previously he kept hitting him with his shield just to numb him, to make him focus all his attention on his shield. However, at this crucial moment, his sharp claws suddenly appeared and pierced towards Immerse's eyes. He was indeed extremely shrewd but also extremely vicious. Puff! This claw viciously pierced into Immerse's eyes. His entire body was nailed into the stone wall. However, at this moment, another figure had already appeared behind Corpse Ancestor. Another pig slaughtering knife in his hand slashed towards Corpse Ancestor. Corpse Ancestor's figure flashed and disappeared. When he appeared again, he was already behind Immorse. He dodged the pig slaughtering knife. At the same time, he clamped his legs around Immorse's waist. His left arm fiercely strangled Immorse's neck. The sharp claws in his hand pierced towards Immorse's eyes. Immorse learned his lesson this time. He suddenly raised his left arm horizontally in front of his eyes. He blocked the sharp claws. Seeing that his attack failed, Corpse Ancestor's left arm loosened Immorse's grip. At the same time, the shield on his left arm continuously smashed towards Immorse. After a while, this clone of Immorse was also killed. However, soon another clone of Immorse appeared. Corpse Ancestor didn't care at all at first. After all, many creatures knew the clone technique. This wasn't strange. However, as time passed, his indifference turned into surprise, then shock, then amazement, and finally disbelief. It was already very good for an ordinary creature to have one clone. It was already very rare to have two. He had only heard of creatures that could have 3 to 5 clones, but he had never seen one before. However, this fellow had already killed more than 30 of his clones, and they were still appearing endlessly. Was there no end to this guy's doppelgangers? However, it didn't matter. He didn't believe that his clone wouldn't run out. 50 should be the limit. However, after killing 50 clones, the 51st one quickly jumped out. Then the 60th one. The 70th one. The 80th one. This caused Corpse Ancestor to break down. Others only had 2 or 3 clones, but this fellow already had 80 clones and they were still jumping out endlessly. Think about it, no matter how strong you were, how would you feel when you encountered such a situation? He killed one after another. He killed 10 after 10. As the saying goes, even if you kill one of me, there will be thousands of me. Wasn't this very frustrating? At the same time, Immorse was enjoying the exposure bath in his own space on Earth. He was enjoying Corpse Ancestor's performance. At the same time, he would occasionally comment. This clone died so miserably. It was almost smashed into a meat patty. This clone's eyes were pierced through by spikes. Fortunately, it wasn't my main body. Hey, this is too much. You directly let such a long spike go through my mouth and come out from below. Do you have to be so cruel? In fact, Immorse wasn't just enjoying his clones being killed one by one. He let his clones fight Corpse Ancestor one by one because he wanted to learn some close combat experience from Corpse Ancestor. Chapter 528. While Corpse Ancestor was killing Immorse's clones, Immorse was hiding in his own space on Earth, leisurely sunbathing. At the same time, he was also learning Corpse Ancestor's fighting style with the help of these clones. Corpse Ancestor's fighting style didn't seem to have any huge energy, nor did it have any destructive power. But every move was extremely dangerous. If he wasn't careful, he would lose his life. If Immorse really fought with Corpse Ancestor, he would have died a long time ago. And this kind of fighting style saved a lot of energy. If they fought like this, everyone could fight for a long time. There was no need to worry about endurance. Finally, after Corpse Ancestor killed Immorse's 100th clone. With a thought, Immorse arrived behind Corpse Ancestor. The moment he appeared, the dragon-slaying saber in his right hand had already silently pierced towards Corpse Ancestor's back. At this time, Corpse Ancestor couldn't remember how many clones he had killed. He was already a little irritated. At this moment he felt the danger behind him. He turned around abruptly. At the same time that he used his body to spin away from the tip of the saber, the sharp claws on his right arm had already pierced towards Immorse's chest. At this time, Immorse had already adapted to his close combat style. His body also twisted in an extremely strange way, dodging this claw. At the same time, the saber that had already stabbed out after deviating by a foot was suddenly pulled back. All of this seemed to take a long time, but in fact this stab and pull was completed in a short instant. Chi. With a soft sound, the dragon-slaying saber directly cut a 2-inch long wound on Corpse Ancestor's waist. Black blood immediately spurted out. Corpse Ancestor finally had a surprised expression on his face. The strength of his body was definitely not something that could be hurt by a sword. How could this guy's unremarkable saber actually cut his skin? However, he didn't care. His self-healing ability was extremely strong. It was just a superficial wound, so what was it? Thus he continued to fight with Immorse. His shield smashed heavily into Immerse's body from time to time. Immerse's dragon-slaughtering saber also left bloody wounds on his body from time to time. As for Corpse Ancestor, the more he fought, the more shocked he became. First of all, this fellow was more than 10 times stronger than all of the previous clones. From the looks of it, this should be the real body. Secondly, the wounds that this guy had left on his body showed no signs of healing. The wound left behind at the beginning was still bleeding profusely. The black blood that flowed out of the dozens of wounds on his body had long since dyed his entire body black. Seeing that he couldn't kill this guy and that guy was leaving more and more wounds on his body, he knew that he could not delay any longer. His ultimate move might be able to kill this fellow, but the release of the ultimate move required time to accumulate power. And at this moment, this guy definitely wouldn't give him the time to gather power. Therefore, he could only temporarily flee and avoid the brunt of the attack. Then he hid in the dark and secretly accumulated power. At that time, he would take advantage of the fact that he was unprepared and kill him with a big move. The plan was very good, but would it really work? At this moment, Immerse was smashed to the ground by Corpse Ancestor's shield. Then he quickly flew into the distance. However, Immerse only moved his mind. When Corpse Ancestor flew over a mountain ridge, 2 blood-red chains suddenly extended from the mountain ridge. They instantly shot out like lightning and wrapped around Corpse Ancestor's feet. Corpse Ancestor lowered his head and looked at the 2 blood-red chains. He sneered in his heart. A mere chain actually wanted to bind Corpse Ancestor? As expected, humans were still too naive. Thinking of this, he slashed at the chain on his right foot with his right claw. Ding ding ding. An ear-piercing sound rang out. The blood-red chain emitted a burst of sparks. However, only 3 faint marks appeared on it. There was no sign of it breaking at all. Corpse Ancestor was shocked. His sharp claws could cut through iron like mud and were invincible. But now he couldn't even cut a mere chain. It could be seen that these chains were definitely not ordinary. In fact, these 2 chains were naturally not ordinary. They were Immerse's dragon binding lasso. Now, Immerse's dragon binding lasso could appear in many different ways. It could be a single thick chain, or it could be a few or even dozens of chains. In short, it could be freely changed according to Immerse's will. Corpse Ancestor's claw couldn't break it, so he hurriedly tried to use teleportation to escape. However, he had clearly underestimated the power of this dragon binding lasso. Not only could the dragon binding lasso trap the opponent, it could also compress the opponent's energy level and strength level to the maximum. As a result, Corpse Ancestor's strength was at most equivalent to a level 10 Grand Desolate Master. It was far from his peak level. At this moment, Immerse flew out from the pit on the ground. Corpse Ancestor expected that this human would definitely fly over. Therefore he said, "Who exactly are you? How can you be so strong?" With these words he numbed Immerse. At the same time he condensed energy in his right arm. He was accumulating energy for his big move. He wanted to release his strongest attack when he was cornered. He wanted to let this lowly human know that Corpse Ancestor was sacred and inviolable. However, Immerse wasn't surprised at all. He stood on the ground and raised his head to look at the bound Corpse Ancestor above the mountain ridge. He held the dragon's salure with both hands that had already been infused with energy and swept it towards Corpse Ancestor like a golf player. At this moment, a huge gap that was 500 meters wide appeared on the mountain ridge that was 10,000 meters long and 500 meters tall. As for Corpse Ancestor, under the attack of the dragon's salure, he directly turned into a black rain of blood that filled the sky and sprinkled down. The ground below was dyed black. Whoosh! Immerse heaved a sigh of relief. This Corpse Ancestor was really difficult to deal with. But then again, this dragon salure was really powerful. Corpse Ancestor's strong body couldn't withstand a single attack from the dragon's salure. Of course, he had also learned a lot of combat skills from Corpse Ancestor. In the future, when he encountered a powerful enemy, it wouldn't just be a competition of energy and physical strength. He could use more techniques to defeat his opponent. At this moment, after exterminating Corpse Ancestor, Immerse returned to his own space on Earth. With a thought, he instantly recovered all of his exhausted stamina and energy. Only then did he return to the Thousand Poison Ridge. He looked at the 5 mountain peaks where the Corpse General Ant Nest was located. Then it was time to exterminate these tens of millions of Corpse General Ants. At the same time, in a cave more than 10,000 kilometers away, the 50 or so tribe leaders and the corpse were looking at a stone wall in front of them. On this stone wall, there were many mountains, forests, rivers and deserts. It looked like a map. On the map there were 2 dots of light, one red and one green, moving around. One of the corpse leaders looked at the green dot of light and said, "Corpse, is there a problem with corpse ancestor?" The corpse glared at the corpse leader. "What do you think?" Chapter 529. More than 50 corpse general tribe leaders and corpse ancestor kept looking at the 2 light spots on the map on the stone wall. These 2 light spots were green and red. The green one represented corpse ancestor, and the red one represented that human. After a long while, a tribe leader asked, "Is corpse ancestor all right?" As soon as this was said, the other leaders all turned to look at this leader as if they were looking at an idiot. Corpse ancestor glared at him. "What do you think?" That tribe leader also felt that he had said something wrong. He quickly took a step back and said, "Corpse ancestor is invincible and invincible. That lowly human is just a little worm in front of corpse ancestor." After saying this, he felt that the tribe leaders had shifted their gazes away from him. He secretly raised his head to take a look, and corpse ancestor's expression became better. However, this tribe leader still had a question in his heart. After hesitating for a moment, he finally made up his mind and asked, I'm just wondering why we still haven't killed that lowly human after such a long time?" This sentence was the common thought of all the leaders present. Their corpse ancestor was invincible and invincible. This was without a doubt. But why was it that it had been half an hour and there was still no winner? Was that human so strong that he could withstand corpse ancestor's attacks for half an hour? However, although these leaders were puzzled, they didn't dare to ask. Because as long as they asked, they would be labeled as doubting corpse ancestor by the other leaders. Fortunately, this iron fool asked at this time. They didn't have to worry about it anymore. Corpse ancestor glared at that iron fool again. He said, "You dare to doubt corpse ancestor?" That corpse general leader immediately broke out in cold sweat when he heard this. He quickly knelt down and said, "This subordinate doesn't dare." Corpse ancestor snorted coldly, "I don't think you dare either." Then he turned to look at the light spots on the wall behind him and said, "Maybe. Corpse ancestor is deliberately playing with this guy." As soon as these words were said, the other leaders seemed to have found a reasonable explanation. They were all relieved. Corpse ancestor is wise. We are far inferior to corpse ancestor. Corpse ancestor hasn't appeared for a long time. It's rare for him to come out, so of course he wants to relax. That guy is like corpse ancestor's prey. Corpse ancestor will play with him for the time being. When I'm done playing, I'll kill him. All the tribal leaders had relaxed and joyful expressions on their faces. But soon the smile on the leader's face froze. He pointed at the map on the stone wall and was at a loss for words. Corpse ancestor. Corpse ancestor, all the corpse generals turned their heads to look. Soon after, all of the corpse commanders were dumbfounded, and their expressions were exactly the same as the iron and simple-minded leader. Even the corpse widened its gray eyes. His gray eyes were filled with disbelief and incredulity. Because the green dot on the stone wall map had been extinguished. What did this mean? The corpse ancestor's life force vanished. This thought made the corpse generals look as if they had seen a ghost. As far as they knew, the corpse ancestor was immortal. It was said that the corpse ancestor had lived for over 30,000 years and he would live forever. But now he was dead. How was this possible? They couldn't believe it. They didn't want to believe it. How did corpse ancestor die? However, the light spots would not lie. Their stone wall map was a special corpse tool refined by the corpse ancestor. As long as it captured the aura of a certain creature and then controlled the aura into the stone wall map, it would be able to see the location and life force of that creature. The location on the map represented the location of that creature. The light spots on the map represented the life force of that creature. For 30,000 years this light spot had never been wrong. Something refined by the corpse ancestor could never be wrong. In other words, the corpse ancestor's life force had already vanished. The corpse ancestor was dead. This caused the higher-ups of the corpse generals to be both terrified and confused. After a long while, the iron and simple-minded leader asked, Corpse leader, what do we do now? The corpse leader pondered for a long while before speaking. Hide. The moment these words were spoken, the corpse generals all looked at the corpse leader in shock. In their eyes, humans were lowly and insignificant insects. But now they, the corpse generals, had to hide for the sake of a mere human. This was simply a huge joke. But at this moment, none of the corpse generals could laugh. They all knew how serious the situation was. If the corpse ancestor was truly dead, then the human on the surface was so powerful that it was simply unimaginable. Facing such an enemy, what else could they do? They could only hide. The corpse leader said. Before we confirm the whereabouts of the corpse ancestor, no one is allowed to appear in front of that human. All the leaders had solemn expressions as they replied, yes. After the corpse leader finished speaking, he turned to look at the blood-red light spot on the stone wall map. They had sacrificed so many corpse generals to lure this fellow to the Myriad Poisons Ridge. They had originally thought that the poisonous creatures in the Myriad Poisons Ridge would definitely not let this fellow live for more than 2 days. In the end, they had not expected this fellow to survive in the Myriad Poisons Ridge for so long. He had even gone on a killing spree in the Myriad Poisons Ridge. And now they suspected that he had even killed the corpse ancestor. How could this human be so powerful? At this moment, Immorse was in the air above the Myriad Poisons Ridge, looking down at the 5 mountain peaks that were shaped like human fingers. These 5 mountain peaks were like the 5-finger mountains of Tathagata. The basin below was like a palm. Within these 5 mountain peaks were 5 general corpse ant nests. And according to his investigation, the corpse ant queen lived under the ground of the palm. Immorse was not interested in the ant queen. Previously, when he killed the corpse ancestor, he only obtained a mere 10 slaughter points. So now he wanted quantity, not quality. The tens of millions of corpse general ants in the ant nests were his true target. However, these corpse general ants were well organized. At most, only one ant nest would have all the corpse general ants come out. In that case, he would have to waste 5 demon-suppressing orbs. So that was only a last resort. As for the best plan, Immorse had already thought of it. At this moment, he teleported and arrived at the ant nest under the giant palm. This was a large hall that was several thousand square meters in size. The floor, walls, and ceiling of the hall were crawling with corpse general ants the size of house cats. Immorse raised his eyes and looked around. These corpse commander ants were squeezing together, there were countless of them. However, although there were many corpse general ants, they were not in a mess. On the contrary, they were entering and exiting in an orderly manner. It was as if there was someone directing the traffic. Upon closer inspection, each corpse general ant had a pair of sharp little clamps on its head. It was like a pair of scissors that could easily cut rocks into pieces. Chapter 530. At the foot of the 5 Fingers Mountain, 500 meters below the palm. In the underground ant nest. Corpse general ants the size of house cats were densely packed everywhere. Someone with trypophobia would probably be scared to death here. Even Immorse felt his scalp go numb. The moment Immorse appeared, the tens of thousands of corpse general ants actually stopped in unison. Immorse didn't give them a chance to react at all. He teleported again and arrived at a smaller cave. In this cave there was a huge corpse general ant that was 100 meters long. It was dragging a huge bloated abdomen that was like an oversized sack. Looked like it was extremely inconvenient to move. However, Immorse wouldn't let his guard down. This was because there were 2 scythe-like clamps on its head that were 10 meters long. This pair of clamps could easily cut through steel. This huge corpse general ant was the ant queen in this cave. It was responsible for producing corpse general ants. When the ant queen saw a human suddenly appear in the ant nest, she was a little puzzled. Immorse took out the dragon-slaying saber. The corpse general ant immediately let out an ear-piercing squeak. The 2 huge sickle-like clamps kept waving. The corpse general ant queen didn't immediately attack Immorse. It was an ant queen and it was good at producing, not fighting. The squeaking sound from its throat wasn't a threat to Immorse, but to shake people, shake ants. The corpse general ants outside the ant queen's cave were all shocked when they heard the corpse general ant's voice. The corpse general ant's boudoir had been invaded. How could this be? They hurriedly rushed into the ant queen's boudoir. However, just as they arrived at the entrance of the ant queen's boudoir, Rumble, there was a loud sound. A huge crack that was dozens of meters wide appeared from the top to the bottom of the Ant Queen's boudoir. All the corpse general ants were stunned. The Ant Queen's boudoir had cracked open. They hurriedly rushed into the Ant Queen's boudoir. They saw that the Ant Queen's body had already been broken into two halves. This was especially true for its huge, bag-like abdomen, which directly exploded. A large amount of black blood flowed out, as well as countless fist-sized ant eggs. The queen ant's head kept rolling on the ground. In the end, it rolled to the side of an upright creature. The creature stretched out its right foot and stepped on the queen's head. When the corpse commander ants saw this, their eyes were about to split open. Chi-chi-chi, chi-chi-chi, chi-chi-chi. They all let out angry roars from their throats. The reproduction of their species depended on the ant queen. The death of the queen ant was the same as ending their bloodline. Although they could cultivate another queen ant. However, the incubation period of an ant queen was very long, at least thousands of years. In other words, in the next few thousand years, their species would not have any new blood. If they encountered a powerful enemy, their species would be finished. It was truly over. This caused these soldier ants to be unable to restrain their anger. At this moment, Immorse made an even more provocative move. He stepped on the corpse ant queen's huge head and exerted force. Poof! The queen ant's head instantly shattered like a watermelon. Even the ground under the queen ant's head was caved in by Immorse's foot. When the corpse commander ants saw this, they almost split open. Chi-chi-chi, chi-chi-chi, chi-chi-chi. They all let out even sharper cries. Their originally large black eyes were now filled with blood vessels. They no longer cared and pounced on the two-legged creature. At this moment, Immorse condensed a pair of wings behind him and flew towards the top of the mountain that had been slashed open by two Dao. He flew out of the ground. The corpse commander ants behind him naturally chased after him relentlessly. As they chased, they let out sharp cries. Chi-chi-chi, chi-chi-chi, chi-chi-chi. Even more corpse general ants heard the angry signal and chased towards the ground. The corpse commander ant queen was destroyed and even its head was crushed. This caused all of the corpse general ants to be furious. They no longer cared. As a result, the tens of millions of corpse commander ants on the 5 mountain peaks all surged towards the ground. Looking down from the sky, it was as if the 5 huge fingers had been pierced with thousands of bloody holes. Black blood continued to gush out from within. In the sky, Immorse looked at the corpse commander ants rolling towards him and finally smiled. A large number of corpse commander ants surged out from the cracks in the ground below Wang Yi. They saw that Wang Yi had already risen to more than 500 meters in the air. Thus they began to build an ant tower. Countless corpse commander ants piled up higher and higher. Soon they reached a height of more than 200 meters. It had to be said that the corpse commander ants were really united. However, no matter how fast they built, they were not as fast as Immorse's flying speed. Immorse's wings flapped slightly and he was about to continue rising. However, at this moment in the sky, countless black things enveloped Immorse. When Immorse looked up, he saw that they were corpse commander ants with transparent wings. These corpse commander ants were much larger than ordinary corpse commander ants. Each of them was about the size of a dog. They had 2 pairs of transparent wings, and like a large dark cloud, they enveloped Immorse. In almost an instant, Immorse was completely enveloped. In addition, the ant towers below were also surging down. Under the pincer attack, Immorse had nowhere to run. He fell from a height of 500 meters. As a result, tens of thousands of corpse commander ants continued to swarm towards Immorse. They formed a huge ant ball around Immorse, enveloping him. However, this was not the end. In the nest of corpse commander ants, there were still countless corpse commander ants that continued to swarm towards the giant dragon ball. Every corpse commander ant seemed to want to get a piece of meat. 15 minutes later, this huge ant ball had reached a diameter of 1 kilometer. If anyone else saw this scene, they would be extremely shocked. The giant ant ball with a diameter of 1 kilometer kept rolling in the center of the giant palm formed by the 5-finger mountain. After a few more minutes, all the ant nests were empty. Tens of millions of corpse commander ants were all attached to the giant ant ball. The scene looked extremely terrifying. It was also at this moment that the black ball of corpse general ants suddenly emitted a chaotic radiance. This light was extremely sharp. It pierced through the giant ant ball in almost an instant. Then it spread throughout the entire world. No matter what kind of creature it was, they were temporarily blinded at this moment. They could not see anything. Or rather, what they could see was the chaotic color that filled the entire world. The sky was chaotic and the earth was chaotic. The mountains were chaotic and the water was chaotic. Even they themselves had turned into the color of chaos. 5 minutes later, the chaotic color finally receded. The entire world was quiet. Chapter 531. When the primal chaos-colored light gradually dissipated, Qin Feng's expression changed. The entire world was finally peaceful. The world was still the same world. The forest was still the same forest. But the giant ant ball, the tens of thousands of corpse general ants, had completely disappeared. As if they had never existed. Immorse floated in the air, his body unscathed. Although those corpse general ants looked terrifying, they were all level 1 super-evolved corpse general beasts. They couldn't even break through his energy shield. In Immorse's mind, the system's pleasant voice finally sounded. Frowny face. Total kill points 1082, 3,775 trillion. You can advance to rank 6. Advance immediately? Immorse replied in his mind, advance. This advancement will take 5 minutes. The system prompted. Soon 5 minutes had passed. The system's pleasant voice sounded in Immorse's mind again. Frowny face. Advancement successful. Immorse took a deep breath, feeling the surging energy in his body. He was slightly excited. He was already at rank 6. Would rank 10 be far away? Would the next rank be far away? Since he had this corpse general world to collect kill points, he must seize the time to advance his strength to super-evolved giant dragon before those giant dragons arrived. According to the giant dragon world's strength classification, the giant dragons were Giant Dragon, Evolved Giant Dragon, Super-Evolved Giant Dragon, Ancient Giant Dragon, Archaic Ancestral Dragon, Dragon God. In the 10,000 dragon realm, every giant dragon was born as a giant dragon. Most giant dragons in their long lives remained as giant dragons their entire lives. It was difficult to advance further. And out of 100 giant dragons, only one could become an evolved giant dragon. Out of 100 evolved giant dragons, only one super-evolved giant dragon. In other words, out of 10,000 giant dragons, only one super-evolved giant dragon could be born. Therefore, only by becoming a super-evolved giant dragon could one be considered a giant dragon powerhouse. Immorse estimated that if another giant dragon came to the Flaming Land to investigate Kongjiu's death, it would at most be a rank 10 evolved giant dragon. Therefore, to be safe, he must become a super-evolved giant dragon 1 rank higher than them. Only then would he be able to crush them. Thinking of this, Immorse closed his eyes and sensed the situation in the Dragon Palace. Fortunately, the Dragon Palace hadn't been attacked by any general corpse yet. By now, Immorse had pretty much wrecked the entire Myriad Poisons Ridge. It was time to go to the next place. But before he left, there was one more thing he had to do. System check-in for a special event. The system's voice replied instantly. Frowny face. Sign in successful. Sign in event. Slaughter of zombie ants. Sign in reward. 1 corpse general ant queen. The next moment, a corpse general ant queen appeared in Immorse's backpack. It was 100 meters long and had a huge belly. There was also a sickle-shaped clamp on its head that was several meters long. It was exactly the same as the corpse general ant queen that Immorse had killed. Immorse was puzzled. He took a closer look at the corpse ant queen. Corpse general ant queen. Level 2 super-evolved corpse general beast. Through continuous eating, they could continue to lay eggs. The more it eats, the faster it will lay eggs. Don't you need to breed for this? Immorse asked. The system replied, the corpse general ant queen is not an ant. It is a hermaphrodite and can complete all tasks by itself. Immorse nodded. Understood. With a thought, he took out the corpse general ant queen from his backpack. He could feel that he was connected to this corpse general ant queen. With a thought, he could order this corpse general ant queen. He asked with his mind, are you hungry? The corpse general ant queen nodded its huge head, and at the same time, the pair of sickle-shaped clamps on its mouth kept waving quickly. Immorse moved his mind again, and his dragon will lifted a corpse beast that was more than 100 meters long. The corpse beast was 5 kilometers away when it was suddenly lifted up by an inexplicable force. It was shocked. It let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. It kept struggling with its 6 legs. But under Immerse's huge dragon will, it couldn't move at all. Finally, it was placed in front of the corpse general ant queen. When the corpse general ant queen saw its food, its huge eyes lit up. A pair of front legs with sharp hooks pierced into the corpse beast's body and pulled. Hiss! The corpse beast was split into 2 halves. It quickly tore off a piece of meat from the corpse general ant queen's sickle-shaped clamps, picked it up and stuffed it into its mouth. Then it quickly picked up a second piece of meat and stuffed it into its mouth. Its speed was extremely fast and its frequency was extremely high. The 100-meter-long beast was completely devoured in just a minute. Not even its bones were left. It was also at this moment that the bottom of its abdomen began to wriggle quickly. A moment later, 10 grayish-white fist-sized eggs were laid. Immerse looked at these eggs and sighed to himself. The corpse general ant queen was very efficient. It had just finished eating and it had already laid 10 eggs. If humans could be so fast, there wouldn't be so many infertility cases. But looking at the 10 grayish-white eggs, he was a little worried. Queen, how long will it take for these eggs to become corpse general ants? The queen's answer was, 10 days. Immerse shook his head. 10 days was too slow. With a thought, he brought the 10 eggs into Earth's space. Then he sped up the flow of time. In just an instant, cracks appeared on the 10 eggs. Then one by one black legs burst out of the eggs. Heads popped out one by one. Soon 10 tiny corpse general ants popped out. Immerse moved his mind again and brought the 10 fist-sized corpse general ants to the corpse general ant queen. The corpse general ant queen was shocked. So fast. Immerse said again. A newborn corpse general ant isn't big enough. The corpse general ant queen immediately communicated with Immerse through its mind. They also need to eat continuously to grow bigger. Immerse nodded. Then Long Yen caught another corpse general ant. When the 10 little ones saw it, they were instantly excited. They climbed onto the 100-meter-long beast's body and kept biting. The 5 little ones only spent 10 minutes to gnaw off a 10-meter-long leg of the 100-meter-long beast. As for their size, it was obvious that they had grown. They were about 1/5 bigger than before. Immerse nodded. They're growing quite fast. The rest of the unfinished beast meat was given to the ant queen. The queen's appetite was much bigger. In just a minute it quickly swallowed the beast. Then it laid another 10 eggs. Using the same method, Immerse made the 10 eggs break out of their shells in an extremely short period of time. Then he continued to feed them. Newborn corpse general ants didn't have a big appetite. Or rather, ordinary corpse general ants didn't have a big appetite. Only the corpse general ant queen. This guy seemed to be a bottomless pit. It seemed that no matter how much meat was placed in front of it, it could easily finish it and then continue to lay eggs. Chapter 532. The more the corpse ant queen ate, the faster it grew. In just one day, it had already given birth to 100 corpse general ants. And on this day, the first 10 corpse general ants had also grown to twice their original size. Immerse looked at the 500 corpse general ants and had an idea in his mind. He had originally planned to leave the 1,000 Poisons Ridge that he had almost destroyed. But now he planned to nurture this corpse ant colony first. He needed at least 10,000 corpse general ants to form a scale. Then he would go to the cities of the corpse general ants and mess with them. After all, the corpse general ants that the corpse general ants killed were also for Immerse's kill points. It was easy to imagine how much kill points he would get if he had millions or even tens of millions of corpse general ants in a corpse general city. Don't call it cruel. When the corpse general ants invaded the flaming continent, they had no mercy at all. If they still talked about mercy when dealing with invaders, they would be too saintly. The next day Immerse continued. The corpse general ant queen gave birth to another 100 corpse general ants. And the first batch of corpse general ants from the day before had grown to 3 times their original size. On the 3rd day, the corpse general ants gave birth to another 100 corpse general ants. And the first 10 corpse general ants were now fully grown. They were the size of a house cat. It only took 3 days for a corpse ant to fully mature from its birth to maturity. This speed was unparalleled. Then after another 7 days he finally gave birth to 1,000 corpse general ants. This reproduction speed was already very fast. But Immorse felt that it was not enough. 10 days to give birth to 1,000. Then wouldn't it take 100 days to give birth to 10,000? Where did he have that much time? Fortunately, the corpse general ant queen's body suddenly began to change. Its skin began to turn white. Then the skin on its back split open. Its entire body drilled out of the skin with difficulty. This process took half a day. Finally, when it drilled out, its body began to grow rapidly. In just half an hour it reached 200 meters. And the white skin from before gradually hardened, forming a white empty shell. So this guy was molting. At this moment, Immorse used the demon dragon's eyes to look at it. Species: Corpse General Ant Queen. Level: Level 2 Evolved Beast Skill. Production: It turned out that after eating enough meat, it leveled up after shedding its skin. Then it quickly began to devour the corpse of the giant beast in front of it. Its frequency was faster and each time it tore off a larger chunk of flesh. It only took half a minute for the 100-meter-long beast to finish eating. However, he still felt that this was not enough. Immorse used his dragon will to control another 5 giant beasts. After swallowing all 5 beasts, the corpse ant queen was finally satisfied. It began to exert itself. Soon a corpse ant egg rolled out from under its abdomen. 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, 30. It wasn't until the 100th one that it finally stopped producing. Seeing this, Immorse was overjoyed. Good housework, directly laying 100 eggs in one go. Wouldn't she be able to lay thousands of eggs in a day? 10,000 pills in 10 days? In fact, the corpse general ant queen had produced more corpse general ants than Immorse had expected. On the second day, it produced 1,300 corpse general ant eggs. In just a little more than 5 days, it had produced 9,000 eggs. In addition to the 1,000 corpse general ants from before, Immorse now had an army of 10,000 corpse general ants. However, this was still far from enough. He used his dragon will to investigate. At this time, there was nothing left in the 1,000 Poisons Ridge. Previously, in the 1,000 Poisons Ridge, there was a large number of corpse general ants. Since he had destroyed the corpse general ants, there was naturally nothing left. However, according to his investigation, there was a large mountain about 300 kilometers to the east of the 1,000 Poisons Ridge. On this mountain there was a group of corpse general tigers. This group of corpse general tigers had about 3,000 of them. For the 10,000 corpse general ants, it was considered a lot. Immorse immediately put these 10,000 corpse general ants into Earth's space. Then with a teleport he arrived at the mountain more than 300 kilometers away. This mountain was not as big as the 1,000 Poisons Ridge. However, there were many species in it. There were also many corpse general beasts. Small groups had about 10 to 20 of them, while large groups had hundreds to thousands of them. Among them, the largest group was the corpse general tiger group. Immorse did not attack these half-corpse tigers immediately. Instead, he found a small group of about 20 corpse general beasts. Each of these corpse general beasts was about 100 meters long. For the 10,000 corpse general ants, it was more than enough. Immorse used his mind and the dragon binding rope emerged from the ground. The blood-red dragon binding rope split into more than 20 ropes and tied up all the corpse general beasts. Then he placed corpse general ants around them. The corpse general ants quickly climbed onto the bodies of these corpse general beasts and began to bite them. The corpse general ant queen was bitten even faster. In just 1 minute, 3 corpse general beasts were eaten. Immorse watched as the corpse general beast's skin was bitten open, revealing the flesh inside. Then the flesh was continuously devoured until only the bones were left. In the end, even the bones were devoured. He was also secretly shocked in his heart. A single corpse general ant was very small. However, once a certain number of them reached a certain level, the corpse general ants were truly terrifying. It was no wonder that the 10 million corpse general ants could run rampant in the 1,000 Poisons Ridge for tens of thousands of years. This was not without reason. After devouring these corpse general beasts, the corpse general ant queen laid eggs twice in just 10 minutes. Each time it laid 100 eggs, no less, no less. Then Immorse went to the next group of corpse general beasts. In this way, in just 10 days, the corpse general ant colony had reached more than 20,000. At this time the corpse general ant shed its skin again. After shedding its skin, its body length had reached 300 meters. At this moment, if it had enough food, it could lay at most 1,000 eggs at a time. At most it could lay 10,000 eggs a day. As long as it followed Immerse, it did not have to worry about not having enough food. In another short 8 days, it laid another 80,000 eggs. At this point, the total number of corpse general ants had reached 100,000. It had finally reached a certain level. Moreover, the corpse general ant queen, which had become a level 3 super evolved corpse general beast, could now directly produce aerial troops. However, if it were to produce aerial troops, it could only produce 1,000 of them each day. Immerse spent a day to make it produce 1,000 flying troops. In this way, Immerse did not have to take the initiative to find food for these corpse general ants. This was because these aerial troops could take advantage of the time when the corpse general beasts were not in their nests to steal their young. Due to the low probability of many aerial beasts reaching adulthood, they would lay hundreds of eggs each time. The number of hatchlings that had just hatched reached hundreds. This became the target of the corpse general ants. Chapter 533. With the flying corpse general ants, it was much more convenient. Immerse scouted the nest first and found out which of the adult zombie beasts had left. Then he let the flying corpse general ants easily bring the chicks back for the other corpse general ants to use. The chances of the corpse general birds successfully reaching adulthood were very small. Therefore they usually laid a large number of eggs. This was definitely beneficial to Immerse. The flying corpse general ants only needed to search one nest and they would be able to find dozens of flying corpse general beasts. Although these corpse general birds were only chicks, they could reach about 5 meters in size. Dozens of them were enough to feed the corpse general ants. On the second and third days, the corpse general ant queen laid another 1,000 flying corpse general ants. At this time the number of flying corpse general ants had reached 3,000. At the same time, the corpse general birds had also discovered the scourge of the corpse general ants. They began to gather together and formed a large flock of corpse general birds. When they flew over, they covered the sky and covered the earth. It was like a huge dark cloud. When this dark cloud flew over, the forest below would be plunged into darkness. Their momentum was great and their aura was high. They kept on chirping. Their chirping was hoarse and unpleasant. Hiss hiss hiss. Rustle rustle, hiss, meow hiss. Wherever they passed, the corpse general beasts in the forest below all hid in their caves. At this time, Immerse looked at the corpse general birds flying over and smiled calmly. Soon, when the dark cloud covered the top of his head, Immerse's dragon telekinesis moved. All the tens of thousands of corpse general birds seemed to have suddenly lost their strength as they fell from the sky while shrieking. Tens of thousands of corpse general birds that were hundreds of meters long fell from the sky. It was a spectacular scene. Crack, crack, crack. In the forest below, the sound of trees breaking could be heard. Plop, plop, plop. In the lake below, huge waves that were hundreds of meters high kept splashing. The corpse general fish in the lake were so shocked that they kept on jumping around. Soon, the forest within a radius of tens of kilometers was smashed into a mess by the tens of thousands of corpse general birds that fell from the sky. Only then did Immerse issue an order to the corpse ant queen. Let's go. The corpse ant queen raised its huge head, and the sickles in its mouth continuously struck each other. At the same time, a strange sound came out of his mouth. Tee. When the corpse general ants heard the voice and the command, they were so excited that their eyes lit up. The meaning of this command was, dry rice, dry rice. They squeaked in response and then quickly rushed toward the corpse birds. Tens of thousands of corpse general ants instantly crawled all over the body of a corpse general bird. After a series of miserable shrieks, the corpse-holding bird fell silent. 5 minutes later, when he looked at the corpse bird again, not even its bones were left. More than 100,000 corpse general ants devoured 10 corpse general birds in just 5 minutes. The corpse ant queen was even more terrifying. Its eating speed was simply too fast. Immerse really couldn't figure it out. Its small mouth and pair of sides made it seem very inconvenient for it to eat. However, it was able to kill 5 corpse birds in just 1 minute. This speed of eating was truly a little abnormal. The corpse general birds looked at the torrent of corpse general ants rushing toward them. They climbed up their bodies. However, they couldn't move at all. They could only let out despairing and miserable shrieks. However, some beasts just screamed and died. When the nearby corpse general beasts heard the shrieks, they were so scared that they hid in their caves, not daring to show their faces. When they saw the flock of corpse general birds flying across the sky, they were scared out of their wits. They didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, these seemingly powerful corpse general birds would become meat in their stomachs. This showed how terrifying the corpse general ants were. Just like that, 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. In these 10 days, Immerse didn't let the ant queen produce any more flying soldiers. The number of corpse general ants was still too low. He let the ant queen produce 10,000 corpse general ants every day and quickly expand their numbers. This was the most important thing to do now. 10 days later, the number of corpse general ants had reached a terrifying 200,000. The 200,000 corpse general ants' eating speed was twice as fast as before. After another 5 days, they finished eating all the corpse general birds. Next, they began to sweep the entire mountain. It took them another 10 days to clean up the entire mountain. At this time, the number of ordinary corpse general ants had reached 300,000. There were also 5,000 flying corpse general ants. Immerse looked at this number and felt slightly satisfied. The only thing that made him feel a little regretful was that the killing speed of the corpse general ants was still too slow. He needed to reach the size of 10 million in order to increase the killing speed. Only then would he be able to gain kill points faster. Therefore, the corpse general ant queen had a long way to go. Thinking about it, the previous corpse general ant colony had only reached 10 million after tens of thousands of years. In less than 2 months, the number of corpse general ant queens had reached 300,000. In fact, this speed of development was already fast enough. At this time, Immerse led the army of 300,000 corpse general ants forward in the forest. Everywhere they passed, the corpse general beasts were unable to escape from his demonic claws. However, Immerse felt a little regretful that the number of corpse general beasts in the forest was not large enough. At most, there were a few dozen to 100. It was rare to see 1,000 corpse general beasts, let alone tens of thousands. Thinking about it, these corpse general beasts were all over 100 meters tall. Their appetite was even more shocking. If their numbers were too large, they would probably all starve to death. Immerse could only temporarily decide on a direction: southwest. There was a small town there. He estimated that there were about 10,000 corpse general beasts in this small town. Actually, these corpse general beasts were innocent. The ones who had truly invaded the flame-beginning continent and turned it into hell were the corpse general beasts. Therefore, Immerse's true target for revenge should be these corpse general beasts. After 10 days, when they were about to reach the small town called Saga, the number of corpse general ants had reached 400,000. On this day, they finally walked out of the forest. They were only 50 kilometers away from the small town. Immerse estimated in his mind. 400,000 corpse general ants should be enough to deal with 10,000 corpse general beasts. Therefore, with a thought, he put these corpse general ants into Earth's space. At the same time, in the small town of Saga, a patrolling soldier came to report to the mayor. Not good, a large number of corpse general beasts are heading towards Saga. The mayor was puzzled. Although there were not many corpse general beasts in Saga, the defense outside was extremely strong. Ordinary corpse general beasts did not dare to approach. This was also why Saga, with only 10,000 corpse general beasts, could stand at the edge of the forest for tens of thousands of years. Why would corpse general beasts suddenly come? They couldn't be that stupid, right? Chapter 534. Saga town was located 50 kilometers south of the forest by a small river. There were only 10,000 general corpse generals in the town. Of course, it was still much bigger than those general corpse tribes. Moreover, because the general corpse generals were larger in size, the town was also very big. If a human came here, they would probably think that it was a big city. Saga town's defense was extremely strong. With their defense, super-evolved general corpse beasts below the 5th rank would not be able to break through. In the entire forest, super-evolved general corpse beasts above the 5th rank were extremely rare. Moreover, those general corpse beasts were in the depths of the forest and occupied the best resources. They would not leave the forest. Only those weaker general corpse beasts would be pushed to the outskirts of the forest. They would not even go out of the forest to look for food. That was why Saga Town was able to stand at the edge of the forest for over 10,000 years. At this moment, the mayor heard the report from the patrol and asked, "Can you find out what kind of general corpse beasts are coming?" The patrol shook his head and said, "It's too far, I can't see clearly. But I can see that there are a lot of them, maybe more than 10,000. Because each general corpse ant was not big, only the size of a house cat. But ordinary general corpse beasts were around 100 meters tall. Therefore, when the patrolling soldier looked from afar, he estimated that the 300,000 corpse commander ants were only 10,000 based on the dust raised by the corpse commander beasts. When the mayor heard that it was only 10,000 general corpse beasts, his expression relaxed. He waved his hand and said to the patrol, "Investigate more. See what kind of general corpse beasts it is so that we can find the most suitable way to deal with them." Then the mayor went to the window and looked at the towering mountain in the distance. He said, "There are many general corpse beasts in this forest. But they usually move alone. It is very rare to see a group of over 1,000. I have only seen 3 groups of over 10,000 in my life. What I can be sure of is that the larger the number, the weaker their individual combat strength. It can be seen how weak the individual combat strength of 10,000 general corpse beasts is. The method to deal with such a group of general corpse beasts is very simple. We need to show off their weaknesses and avoid their strengths. We just need to divide them into several large areas. Divide them into a dozen or even dozens of small groups and you can easily defeat them one by one." The attendant nodded his head. "Lord Mayor is wise." The mayor continued, "Go and prepare." The lackey nodded. "Yes, Mayor." Very quickly, the 10,000 general corpses in Saga Town entered a busy state. They quickly pushed out thousands of huge metal frames that were more than 5 meters tall. These metal racks were about 50 meters wide and 500 meters tall. It was large at the bottom and small at the top. Its 2 sides were wrapped tightly in metal and there were many large metal spikes on it. The shelves were filled with heavy stones. At the top there was a metal plate that looked like a passageway. When these shelves were connected together they formed a solid and thick wall. The general corpse could still walk on top of the roof. Under the mayor's command, the corpse generals connected the racks into several pocket formations. In this way they could use these pocket formations to separate the corpse beasts. The general corpse beasts would be able to surround and attack the general corpse beasts from the top of the high wall. The mayor stood on the top of the high wall and issued a pre-war mobilization. Last time the higher-ups selected soldiers to attack that flaming initial continent. Aren't you regretful that you weren't selected? Now there is an opportunity in front of you. This time when the general corpse beasts attack, if any of you perform outstandingly in battle and kill the top 10 enemies, I can recommend you to become a soldier. When the general corpse generals heard this, their eyes lit up. They were pleasantly surprised. Roar, roar, roar. They roared in unison. None of them wanted to stay in this place for the rest of their lives. They were youths with dreams and ambitions. But without a special opportunity, they could only stay in Saga Town for the rest of their lives. This was the law of the general corpse world. But if they became soldiers they would have the chance to go to other places. They would have the chance to make a name for themselves. They might even have the chance to invade that weak flaming initial continent. As long as they could go to the flaming initial continent, it would be a chance for any general corpse to make a name for themselves. At the same time it would be a great opportunity to make a fortune. The mayor raised his hand and continued to speak passionately. He said, "Therefore all of you brave potential warriors, all of you fight with all your might. Chase after your life's dream and win a beautiful tomorrow for all of you." One had to admit that the mayor was an expert at cooking chicken soup. When the general corpse generals heard this, they all raised their fists and roared at the sky. Roar, 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 roar. However, while dreams were beautiful, reality was not necessarily as the general corpse generals wanted. Just as they got into formation and were in high spirits, the corpse general beast in the distance suddenly stopped moving. After waiting for about 20 minutes, there was still no sign of the general corpse beasts. The mayor called the patrolling soldier over and asked, "Did you find any traces of the general corpse beasts?" The patrolling soldier smiled bitterly and said, "That group of general corpse beasts suddenly disappeared. The mayor narrowed his eyes and turned to look at the patrolling soldier. Disappeared? What do you mean? The patrolling soldier replied. He disappeared. The mayor's eyes narrowed into slits. I'm not asking what you mean. Hearing this, the patrolling soldier trembled slightly. The narrower the mayor's eyes were, the angrier he was. And when the mayor was extremely angry, he would swear. He continued to explain. That is, there was a large amount of smoke and dust that they kicked up earlier. From the observation mirror, I could see countless black general corpse beasts at the front. They seemed to be general ants. But suddenly the general corpse beasts disappeared. It was as if something had suddenly taken them away. Hearing this, the mayor's squinted eyes opened slightly. He looked at the distant horizon, at the faintly discernible smoke and dust that was about to disappear. His expression became much more serious. He had been the mayor of Saga town for over 200 years. During this time he had encountered at least 80 if not 100 attacks from general corpse beasts. But he had never encountered such a strange situation. As far as he knew, there were no general corpse beasts that were capable of invisibility or spatial skills. If what the patrolling soldier said was true, then there must be some unknown secret behind this. At this moment he suddenly felt that something was wrong. He abruptly raised his head and looked at the sky. In the sky, there was a human with wings condensed from energy on his back. He was quietly floating there. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.